Hi, this is James Page for INCA TV. Very pleased to say we've just managed to grab Ronan Kelly, CTO EMEA for Adtran, straight from the plenary stage. Ronan, one of the things you were talking about was bandwidth abundance. What does that mean? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Well, if you think about from the inception of the internet, from the days of dial-up to the early ADSL days, etc., people always wanted more. We could never go fast enough. We were always waiting for things to load, pages to come down, music files to come down, more recently video files to come down. And even if they wanted to purchase more, the technologies that were available at the time prohibited them from accessing more. But now what we're seeing is with the build out of full fibre networks across the UK, that government vision of gigabit society is finally starting to become a reality. As I spoke about on stage, over 70% of households now can access gigabit connectivity. And the cost of that gigabit connectivity now, there's over 20 operators in the UK today offering gigabit connectivity for less than €50. So people can afford that sort of capacity. So for the first time in the history of the internet, consumers here in the UK can afford far more capacity than they could possibly dream of using today, and probably for many, many years to come, without breaking the bank with regard to what they spend every month on broadband.
Fantastic. So what does that mean for you? What kind of use cases would you see that being put to trying to bring it to life a little bit for us?
Well, I suppose the key thing is, I'm often asked, what do people really need gigabit connectivity for? First of all, it's the simultaneous use. There's no individual application on an individual device in the consumer space that yet needs gigabit connectivity. But when you start to throw multiple users in a household where they're parallel gaming, they're streaming TV, they're uploading, proposals as part of work or whatever it is, that starts to chip away at the capacity that's available there. But most importantly, what I always describe as the biggest benefit that gigabit connectivity gives to consumers is time. You're no longer waiting for things to happen. Everything is just instantaneous. So you're no longer having to drag the kids out the door while they're screaming, hang on, I haven't finished downloading this episode on Netflix, before you kick them into the car. Instead, everything just happens on a much more snappy basis. And people get so used to that so quickly, when they move on to slower broadband, they feel it.
And do you think, given we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, that then people are there's still that demand for that level of speed and support?
I do, I genuinely do, because if you think about the utility that people get out of their broadband connection, in the early days of broadband connectivity, we browsed the internet, and then it evolved slowly but surely to a bit of shopping, and then there was a bit of music download. Now we do everything in our lives over those connections. If you think about it, we shop, we socialize, we keep in touch with friends and family, we get most of our video content, our TV content over those broadband connections, and now increasingly with work from home, etc., even post-COVID, there's still a significant amount of work from home in place. The level of utility that the broadband connection gives to households today is only surpassed by the electrical connection within the house.
Great, okay, so we know in the last few days that Adtran has sealed the merger with Adva. So in that scenario you've just painted, where do you fit in? What kind of role are you playing in that?
Yeah, so we're delighted that the combination of the two companies, Adtran and Adva, is now well underway now at this point in time. And what it really brings to the table, particularly for our customers, is a much broader portfolio of fibre-based solutions that they can deliver services from. The way we describe it is from your smartphone in your hand through the Wi-Fi gateway, all across the fibre networks to the internet peering points. We can now provide every single piece of equipment in between, and we can do that equipment in an open fashion as well, so there's no lock-in that goes for our customers. We can also bring a whole lot of novel use cases and new applications to this Adtran customer base that historically we couldn't offer. So for example, we can bring timing and synchronization capabilities so that the fibre access networks that they're building start to become relevant for things like small cell densification as part of the 5G rollouts. We can bring monitoring capabilities to the network as well that allow for a whole lot of new novel use cases. Things like monitoring for intrusion detection either on the fibre network or also on customer premises. Things like temperature monitoring. So if you picture high risk areas like, for example, the London Underground, where we've got fibre that's being built through that network by BAI, for example, those individual fibres, we can do things like temperature sensing without putting any active equipment on it whatsoever, so that you could detect early outbreak of fire, for example, in critical risk areas. You've got vibration detection. We could be, where the fibres are running down many of the streets across the UK today, we can start to do things like early pothole detection and work with the councils to identify where there's potholes beginning to form, and they can fix them before they ever become expensive to fix. So there's a whole raft of new use cases that's going to allow the operators to monetize their networks in whole new different ways over and above just pure broadband delivery.
Fantastic. Well, I can hear the excitement in your voice, and looking forward to hearing more about how they're going to work together to deliver some of those solutions. Fantastic for you, and thanks for taking the time to explain some of that to us.
My pleasure, James.